Set. Mr. Mayor, we're all set.
Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, staff. I see that we have quorum, and I call this regular meeting for the Town of Pelham Council for Monday, May 7th, 2018 to order. In light of the fact that this is our first council meeting since the tragic events in Toronto on April 23rd, I thought it was appropriate that we take a moment and offer a moment of silence for those victims who were killed. The 10 that were killed in that accident, wasn't an accident, in that act on Yonge Street by that van, and the 15 that were injured. Our flags were lowered at the time for the Humboldt crash, and they were extended. The flag's half-staff were extended as a result of this action in Toronto. So I would ask, I know that it's been in everybody's thoughts and prayers, and I would ask at this point that we have a moment of silence for the victims, both those who were killed and those that were injured. Thank you. We'll now proceed with the singing of the national anthem. Councillor Papp is going to lead us, and all who are able, please rise and face the flag.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all lives us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King, that the agenda for the May 7th, 2018 regular meeting of council be adopted as circulated. Are there any amendments or changes to the agenda? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next is disclosure of pecuniary interest. That is any conflicts of interest that any members of council may have. Do any members have any conflicts of interest that they need to declare?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I have none. Can that be so noted? Thank you. We'll now move to presentations. We have a number of presentations, and we're very grateful for that this evening. The first is the Pelham Panthers U16 boys soccer, who won an international soccer tournament. They're the champions, and they're easy to pick out because they're in their colors here this evening. So thank you very much for coming, and they have a lot of supporters here as well. They traveled to Italy from March 25th to April 3rd of this year for an Italian soccer excursion and to complete in the, how do you say that, Agropoli, thank you, International Soccer Tournament. Agropoli, International Soccer Tournament. And they did do some touring before the tournament. And it says here in the write-up that the players and parents were nervous heading into that the opening game. And no one had any idea what to expect other than that you were playing soccer, right? After the anxious first half, the Panthers found themselves in a scoreless battle and ultimately fell by 1-0 by virtue of a heartbreaking late penalty shot, only a few minutes remaining on the clock. What a hard way to deal with that. A hard way to lose a game, sorry. Second game had the Panthers face Roma, an important game for both teams. The Panthers came away with a 2-2 tie in an exciting back-and-forth affair that saw Michael, I'm going to get this wrong even though I practice these, Demritzio's tie the game 2-2 with 3 minutes left to play. Congratulations, Michael. Game 3, Pelham squared off against Palmero in a must-win game for both teams. Pelham came ready to play and did not disappoint their fans with an impressive 3-1 victory. Congratulations. The win put Pelham into the final game against Calentio Academy, who came in undefeated and had not surrendered a goal in the tournament. Another solid effort from the boys paid off with a 1-0 victory and the championship trophy that you have with us this evening. Congratulations. This is outstanding. So we have certificates for each of you, and I would ask the Deputy Mayor to assist me in giving those out. I know. We'll try it again here. I did practice them earlier today, I'm sorry. So first to Peter Fazzari. We also have chocolate. Hey. Peter Fazzari, congratulations. You're welcome. I don't know if you want to do a little photo, each photo or a group photo. He's shaking his head. Go up here as well, and your team will join you. Anthony Babalacqua. A little chocolate for you. These are soccer ball chocolates from Sweet Thoughts. Kyle Otley. There he is. A little chocolate for you as well. Lucas D'Incenzo. Did I get that right? I'm sorry. Congratulations, Lucas. A little chocolate as well. Brett Gregory. Good job. You're welcome. Ryan Bolveria. Ryan Bellavari. Little chocolate for you. Michael DiMaurizio. Well done. Nicholas Longo. Chocolate. Drew Colangelo. Harmon Narbonne.
He's not here.
Narbonne? Harmon's not here. Okay. Congratulations to Harmon. Antonio DeCellis. Thanks. Mason Sturr.
He's not here.
Mason's not here. Okay, congratulations to Mason. Patrick Kirby. Thank you. There we go, perfect. Philo Kozam. Filar Kozam, he's not here either. Congratulations. Joel Tunakaitis. Jacob Sukar. Not here. Congratulations. It's a hard one. Cole Smith. Not here. Congratulations to Cole. Corbin Atkinson. Luca DeCellis. Andreas Peleas.
Mayor Dave. Cole Smith. Right up.
Cole Smith. And now to the coaching staff, very dedicated. Anthony DeCellis. You get a chocolate too. Absolutely.
What's the leftovers? We'll give you those.
Perfect. Dominic Longo.
Well done.
And Jean-Paul Narborn. And did you want to bring the trophy and we'll do a little photo? So I think there's one also will want to congratulate you as well. Let's give a round of applause for the whole team. Look at this
Hey, boys.
Mark, photo.
The mayor? How do you want everybody? Yeah. Boys, gotta get together.
Yeah, we gotta squeeze it in. Could you guys move back just a bit? And then we're gonna get two of you to hold these. We need some volunteers to hold the trophies. Squeeze in a bit on this side. Sorry.
Make them stay after the meeting.
All right, don't run away yet, guys. All right, scooching a little bit. You're all teammates at the very least. All right, looking right at the end of the camera lens. I'm gonna take one more.
And then one more when he's done.
Bear with me, guys, sorry. All right, this one's for all the marbles. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. They like that.
Sorry, okay, that's fine, last one. Thank you.
Congratulations, we're so proud of you. Congrats. Thanks very much.
You know, job showing up at the end of the day. I didn't know it was 6:30. Kim, we're eating dinner. He's like, oh, go, we gotta go. I'm sitting at the door ready. Then it takes 10 minutes to get ready. God damn.
Dave, thanks very much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, good. Thanks for coming. JP. Congratulations again. Very exciting.
For a long time. Oh, yeah.
Pelham, go to the lead place. Win.
We have another youth focus. We'll just get moving in a second here, and maybe someone needs to help Ms. Bonesteel with the computer. I put the screen down. So Emily Bonesteel has been a member of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council for a number of years. She was elected by her peers as the Prime Minister this year, and she's doing an amazing job along with her colleagues on the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. I was very impressed when the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council wanted to do what we called a youth forum, and that she actually, along with her colleagues, led the charge in organizing this forum and having a number of students from across the municipality, from our different schools, come forward and participate. And as council sees, there are a number of questions that were asked of the participants, and Emily's here to provide the report, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so we put together a little slideshow of what the results were from the forum. So on Thursday, March 1st, we had 50 students from grades 7 to 12 representing all of the feeder schools that Pelham residents attend. We worked in small groups, about 7 groups, with a Mayor's Youth Advisory member at each table, asking questions, going through what they want to see in Pelham, and how to change it and make it better for the future. So the following is what we saw. So the youth feel that the town of Pelham is friendly, safe, family-oriented, welcoming, and overall a very happy place to live. We would like more youth-friendly spaces, places for teens to hang out, keep the small town feel, more green spaces, more advertising of the public transit, more volunteer and job opportunities for youth, and to better advertise volunteer and the job opportunities that open up. At Summerfest, which was one of our main focuses along with what we want to see at the community center, we said a teen zone closer to the action, better advertising, a teen zone still, but slightly changed with more carnival activities, better food, and some more music that is geared towards teens and more youth. And then at the community center, we would like to have different kinds of sports offered, both pick up and drop in, as well as a low cost for them, as well as courses offered if you're not into sports, fitness classes, and some dances, like glow in the dark was a theme we picked. Any questions?
To the point, thank you very much. Any questions for our Prime Minister?
No? Okay. Perfect. I like
Good politician.
So thank you very much for the report. I think council has a motion here to receive it, and it will be posted on the website. And I think the information here, I know that those members that are working on that and staff that are certainly working on this as well, the community center, what type of activities does one want to see there, and also for Summerfest. And we're hoping that the representative from the Mayor's Youth Advisory will bring that forward to Summerfest. Okay? Councillor Kersey?
Not a question, Mr. Mayor, just a very brief comment with respect to what you just said. Summerfest committee has already acted on the recommendations out of this forum and through your rep there, and we greatly appreciate the feedback. We have struggled since the inception of Summerfest to try and come up with activities that speak to the teen group. And maybe because a lot of us are white-haired, we haven't been as successful as we wanted to be. But we are making significant changes this year, and we're very much hopeful that will appeal to you.
No, that's great to
Your,
hear.
your
Thank
group.
you.
Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
feedback.
Anything further? Oh, thank you very much. Congratulations. Also, I want to thank members of the staff that helped organize the Youth Summit, the Youth Forum, and Ms. Van Ravensway and your staff, so Allison as well. Where is she? There she is. So thank you very much, and the other staff that organized this. Thank you very much. So it has been moved by Councillor Papp, second by Councillor Kersey. Be it resolved that the Youth Forum report by the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council be received for information. And no doubt that information, as Councillor Kersey indicated, will be used at the various events, both Summerfest specifically and also the Meridian Community Center. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much for your work. Thank you. Now we move to other presentations. And I'm going to ask Councillor Kersey, that's been involved with each of these groups, to come down. And I think Tiffany's going to transform the council chamber here. So if we can make our way down to the podium. Thank you. You can, if you want, just leave them here and then we can turn it around. How's that? This one? Okay. Maybe just here and then we can put it there. How does that sound? All right. Sorry about the logistics as we transform the room from soccer trophies to donors. And I appreciate Councillor Kersey being here because he's been quite involved in working with each of the donors for the community center, and we know that he is invested in this as well and is a very significant donor, he and his family. As we've done before, we want to honor and thank members of the community that step forward specifically to donate to the community center. This is a once-in-a-lifetime project for our community. And it's something that will bring the community together. And we're going to hear from them. I don't have to say to say this. So we're going to ask them to come forward first, and then we'll turn over or add these items. So the first that we're going to honor and thank is from Elford Beam Limited, and it's Melissa Stack is here. Thank you very much. Before you start, I just want to say that Elford Beam has been very, very involved in the transformation of East Fawn Hill and the various works that are going on there, the road works and all of that activity, and it's a real partner. So I don't know if you want to just say something to council and the community.
So Alfred Beam Excavating, one of the values is giving back to the community. One of our owners lives in the local Pelham area. So it was a great opportunity for us to give back, and this community center actually services all of Niagara, so it's a benefit for everyone.
That's great. Congratulations, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's put this up if you could help, Council. Sure. Put this right here. And it's the Alfred Beam Excavating Men's Change Room.
Like over in the background, just scoot out of the way because they don't want to be in there. So close together, guys. We're friends. Look right to the change room. Smile over there, the camera lens.
Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. we have another. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. Now, we've had a number of them are here. We've had real partners when it comes to our sporting groups and for our youth involvement in youth sports. We have representatives here from the Pelham Panthers basketball that have donated as well to the community center. And it's always heartwarming when representatives of those user groups come forward and say, we're not only looking forward to using the facility, but we also want to donate to it. I'm going to introduce Brian, and he's going to introduce the other members of his executive that are here. But Brian was also instrumental in the development of the community center and very involved in the architectural design advisory committee and helped formulate what this community center would look like so that it would be a home for our champions, as he often called it, and available for those that are with Pelham basketball, but also other users as well. So let's give Brian Bleach a round of applause for their donation. Thanks so much, Brian.
Okay, so I'll introduce Augie Mee and Darren Williams. Augie's a vice president, and Darren's a member of board of directors. As the mayor said, it was an honor to be part of the design committee, being there from day one, seeing our dream as a group happen, and then to be actually doing the tour, being just last week. It's just neat to see how it's transformed from a dream to be on paper, to be in a building, and now we're going to be in there in a couple months. So it's been great. I thank council for everything and their time. And Augie wants to talk a bit about Pelham basketball and how we're going to use it as a group.
Perfect, thank you.
Just to add to what Brian said, we've been an organization that's been living in this community for a lot of years, and we've grown. And you might have read about the success of our program, but it's if you drive around the province and talk to other organizations, you'll know that Pelham is sort of an elite group now of clubs and house league and training and all the good things we do. And now I said to Brian, now we have an elite organization needs an elite place to call home, and I think with the new facility, that's where we're going to be. So we're very excited about moving in as soon as possible, and certainly starting to use it and bring groups here and start to share the community with them as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Come on in, everybody. We're going to try it here. It's all guy in the middle. Come on in here,
Look up at the end of the camera lens. And you have big smiles looking right here. Oh, Brian, you can smile better than that. Check the tape. Alright, we're gonna do one without the flash, and then I promise you're gonna. Everybody hold very still, looking up here, and that lovely smile once again, Brian. Alright, let me check this. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks very much. That's the Activity Center corridor that's going to be named after the Pelham Panthers Basketball Association. It's absolutely outstanding. So thank you. Brian? Thanks, Brian. Thank you. The third group I don't think is here this evening. Oh, are they? We don't have the.
Oh, no.
The third. So there was another group that was posted on the agenda. So the fourth group is here. And this one is very heartwarming as well, because we have a case of a new business owner in town that started his own business, and he knows what it's like to transform something into the vision that he has for this wonderful restaurant. He's really embraced the community, and the community has embraced him. And but he's also come forward with a gift to the community center, and so it's heartwarming that Peter Moore is here from Peter Piper's Pub House. Thank you very much, Peter. We appreciate the support.
Thank you. Well, family first, I'll just mention I have 3 young kids, 8, 7, and 2, and our generations of families that have been here, you know, we saw the old rink down at the pit, and then to the arena here, which is really dilapidated, so we're very happy for a new community center, the Meridian Community Center. And so our young kids will actually be able to enjoy that, just as our father-in-law enjoyed the pit, and you know, myself and my wife enjoyed the arena. Now they get to enjoy this Meridian Community Center. We think it's great, and we're one of the businesses, as Mayor Dave said, we're very new, and we're going to benefit directly from the community center and the groups coming, and you know, the excitement that's being created by it. So we're directly going to be influenced by it. So the least we can do is actually help pledge and donate towards it. So we think it's a great thing for the community, and we look forward to it opening.
That's great. It's coming soon.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Peter.
I'm used to being boss.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean,
Actually, try to fit this way, guys. Let's keep the projector out of the background. Nobody wants the desktop in their photo. Face together. And it's fine, don't worry. Big smiles looking right here. And we're gonna do something a little different. You're gonna look over here, right at the end of this lens. Perfect.
Probably knows Peter, I'm getting real close here.
I'll be quick. Good.
Thanks, Mayor.
Very much. Councilors will want to shake your hand.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you very much. Take those over. You can leave them there if they're lowered, I guess. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, just as we're switching over to Deloitte, we knew that when we named the center, we were very, very close to our goal. And we're over $2.8 million now to that goal of $3 million recognition goal. So it's outstanding community support from so many parts of the community coming together to support this community center that will serve so many parts of our community. So congratulations and thank you to each of those donors. We appreciate it. Now, next is Trevor Ferguson from Deloitte. We always invite him when there's other presentations going on and other kind of things, and he has a bit of sometimes a difficult act to follow. So, but it's great to have you here, Mr. Ferguson, this evening to go through the audit with us. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I did have a reserved seat, which was, I think that's the first for me. So I'm here to present the results on our audit of the town's financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2017. I understand management's going to be doing a little presentation, kind of walking you through some of the highlights of the financial statements themselves. I'm here to speak to our audit of those financial statements. So I'm going to scroll through the document here. I think I may have missed a page. Is this every second page that's on here? It is. So the copy that's electronically here is every second page rather than every page of the document. I do have a hard copy of it, which we have
I believe we have every page in our,
You have
was
every page
posted,
on
was
your
it
agenda?
not?
So that's fine, we can just.
Is
we can just
it
work-
14 pages total?
Mine's a little thicker than that. The appendices aren't numbered, so the last page the last appendix is Appendix 5, and it's 3 pages. Title of the page, the top of the page says resources on the top of the page, on the very last. But if you've got the electronic copy in front of you, hopefully that's.
I'm not
hopefully
sure we
that'll
have the correct copy. We're going to check. Maybe Councillor King, do you have the correct?
I have 33 pages here.
We have 14. Oh, no, maybe looking at the wrong report.
Okay. Why don't you start talking and we'll,
What was this?
Catch up.
Oh, yeah, 14. 14.
Should I get,
Make the
I can
report.
keep going, or?
what do we do, Madam Clerk?
We have appendix 4.
I can maybe make photocopies. If the treasurer wants to give hers, I can make photocopies.
Madam Treasurer, it appears that we only have half the report posted. That's all that the clerk received?
Do you want us to go?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'll defer until,
Okay.
like, until the next, you can do another presentation next, or another delegation, and then we'll do our piece, if that's
Okay.
better.
If that's okay, yeah, that's good. Let's get copies. I don't know, or do you want to go through and run through your presentation,
Yep, I'm
Ms.
fine.
Quinlan?
Yep.
Right now? Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry about that. We'll hear from the treasurer, but the financial statements in there, they are total, and they're correct. They're 35 pages.
Yes, they're
M-
correct.
Mr. Ferguson, sorry, the financial statements that were posted on the website were 35 pages.
They're management's financial statements, but I've got a hard copy in front of me.
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor.
That makes sense.
Okay, so the financial, just for clarity for everybody, the financial statements that were posted on the website publicly are there in totality. What you were going to report on was the report to council and outlining all of those things, explaining the audit, et cetera. And that's the part where we only had every other page. And I know most of us went right into the numbers, so we'll get that information. So let's turn it over to the treasurer, Ms. Quinlan, and she's going to run through treasurer's report of the financial statements. Ms. Quinlan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to be here tonight to present the treasurer's report. So the agenda for tonight, I'll do an introduction, a financial update, a risk analysis, provincial partnership, financial strategic direction, and my closing remarks. So this presentation is an update from the November 29th council presentation that was done at E.L. Crosley School. I'm happy to announce that the audit financial statements are presented to council 1 month earlier than they have been in the past. They normally come to council in June, but we were able to bring them forward a month earlier. And I'm going to do an overview of the 2017 audited financial statements and the fourth quarter reporting. So the financial update, these are the different categories I'm going to go through. The current year status, the Meridian Community Center, the audited financial statement, fourth quarter reporting, long-term debt, and the cash position. So this is 6 months ago when I came to do the presentation. This is now to update you on how the fiscal year ended up. The current year status, so in this current year, on May the 22nd, the first quarter report will be coming to council. Right now, the only budget variance that we have to date for 2018 is snow removal due to the long snowy winter, and we'll bring that report in a couple weeks. The Meridian Community Center, with regards to the Meridian Community Center, on the left-hand side, we have the pie chart that shows how the Meridian Community Center is to be funded. I'm happy to say that, we are just weeks away from opening from getting substantial completion of the Meridian Community Center. And up until the end of March, we have $24 million of expenditures. We've issued the 2 debentures, and right now, we've also started issuing an interim bridge loan from Infrastructure Ontario. That loan is in place while we're in the process of selling the land. And once the land is sold, the bridge loan will be paid back within the year. Exciting news about the pledges. We're over $2.8 million of the $3 million target. To date, we received $430,000. We just invoiced another $450,000 that will be coming in the next few months for this year's donations. And we still have $951,776 in a reserve, and that reserve is used to pay for the interest and the principal of the Infrastructure Ontario Bridge loan. The status of the land sales, there are currently some very interested parties. We've got with bid submissions that came to council for over 10 acres of the land. Really, really exciting proposals for projects for East Fawn Hill, and there's a lot of interest for the smaller pieces of land. So a lot of activity is happening right now, and it's very, very exciting. The audited financial statements, all the debt issued to date has been recorded in the financial statements. All audited financial statements for the town in all the years, and you'll also hear from Deloitte after my presentation that we have an unmodified, clean audit opinion, which means that the financial statements are not materially misstated. So, as far as some of the highlights, you have the financial statements in your package. This is the consolidated statement of financial position. What we mean by consolidation, we also include in our statements, we have the Library Board, the Niagara Central Airport Commission, which we have an 18% interest in that, and the Peninsula West Power Inc., there's a 17% interest that we have in that. So those are all consolidated in these financial statements. And just some of the highlights here, if you look at the taxes receivable, we're down about $419,000 from last year. That means we have a 19% reduction in the balance outstanding in our receivable, and that has to do with the tax clerk working with our residents and making collections on some old overdue accounts. So that's very exciting. What's new on this from last year is there is a tangible capital asset held for sale. And this is the land that is up for sale right now, and that is showing under the financial assets. The liabilities, some of the larger numbers, like for accounts payable and accrued liabilities, are higher than last year, and that has to do with the invoices coming in for the Meridian Community Center. The debt has increased from 13 million to 31 million, and that is directly related to the Meridian Community Center, because you can see the tangible capital assets have increased by almost $26 million. The consolidation statement of operations. So this is the statement that shows the revenue and expenses for the town. When we come So on our financial statements, this is on the accrual basis. When we come to council and we bring forward the budget is on a modified cash basis. So they are a little bit different. That's why the fourth quarter reporting is important for me to go through in more detail on the revenue and expenses, because it actually aligns with the budget. The consolidated statement of change in net debt. This shows why the debt has increased, and as I mentioned earlier, it's the acquisition of the tangible capital assets of almost over $27 million has caused the increase in the debt. And so what's important here is, when you look at financial statements and you look at other municipalities, every municipality is at a different state in time. So some municipalities are more stable and not growing, but we're in a state of growth right now. So right now, when you see the debt on our books, is because we're in a position of growth. And I guess the comparator is, if you look at a young couple that just gets married and purchases a house, they're going to have a higher debt for the mortgage of their house, as opposed to an older couple that just retired. They would have had their house paid off and they would have cash in the bank. So we're like the young family that is growing, and a lot of exciting things. Once the growth happens in East Fawn Hill, we'll see a lot of new property taxes and generating more revenue for the town. The consolidated statement of cash flows, this is an important statement, and this statement actually shows where the cash, how the cash inflows and the cash outflows. And once again, it shows the acquisition of the tangible capital assets, so that's the cash going out, and then how did you actually pay for that, and it shows the debt that was taken out for that. The reserves and the reserve funds, these are the balances of the reserves in at the end of the year. Once once some of the land is sold, it's going to replenish some of the land reserves that we have there. You can't see those numbers. I know you have them in your package. I just want to show you the quarterly revenue report. So as I mentioned earlier, this is on a modified cash basis. So what you don't see here, for example, is the amortization of capital assets. You'd actually just, so when we come to council for the budget, we come and ask for the dollars that we need to meet all of the cash obligations that we have in the year, and that also includes principal payments. So just some of the highlights here for the revenue. As you can see, the supplemental revenues are above the budget amount, and also almost twice as much as last year, and that has to do with the growth that's been happening in Pelham. In the clerk's department, the revenue has gone up quite a bit, and some of that has to do with the marriage certificate license and also all the activities in the Committee of Adjustments. We've had to make a transfer from the reserves in the transportation area to cover the snow removal. In the planning department, there's been significant growth, and that has to do with all of the activity in planning and building. And the water and wastewater is actually a reduction, and that has to do with the reduction in consumption. The next slide here is on the expenditures. Most of the expenditures are in line. Overall, there has been an increase under the shared admin overhead expenditure, and this is where we put some of the global amounts. So what you'll see there's about $175,000 relating to professional fees for legal fees and the KPMG investigation, directly related to the motions made by the Niagara region. So that's where those costs have been in there, and there have also been some organizational changes. Once again, the building department, large increase in the building department, and we've been able to transfer the reserve from the building department of almost $522,000 to the reserves. So overall, on a modified cash basis from the budget, the town is about $275,000 in a deficit in comparison to the budget, but that has to do with the extraordinary costs that we've incurred. So the next one is the capital reports. You have them in front of you. And so the capital reports are summarized in Appendix 3. What we have here are all of the projects that were approved by council, the original budget, the actual expenditures to date, and what percentage of that has been spent, and the status. So we sorted out, this has been sorted by approved projects, and then after that, other projects that were approved in year, and then listing all the projects after that were red circled or deferred. And so this shows the status of that. And the next report on Appendix 4, we have listed capital projects that were approved in the prior periods and still being carried forward in 2017. So for example, the Meridian Community Center would be one of those projects that are multi-year, and we'll also see that project in 2018. And that's where we are with those. So the long-term debt. The annual debt and financial obligation limit for all municipalities is determined by the Ontario Regulation 40302 of the Municipal Act. So what that means is that the annual repayment limit is calculated at 25%. Town's operating revenue is less the debt charges. So at the end of December, the town is at 12.7% of that limit. The existing long-term debt, this is in your financial statements. Where you can see that we went from the 21 million in 2016 to almost 32 million, and that's the new $12 million debt relating to the Meridian Community Center. Within the next 8 years, a lot of the older debentures will mature, and that will reduce the amount by $11 million within the next 8 years. This is a good chart that shows, how is the long-term debt being funded. So the blue shows that 42% is coming from the tax levy, and the orange is 58% is coming from development charges and parkland dedication. That's how the long-term debt is funded. The future long-term debt, back in November when I did the presentation, the total amount of approved debt but unissued, so unissued approved debt, was at $9.9 million. In March, I came to council, and we updated that number with which is $4.8 million. So there was certain projects that were funded either out of the reserves or development charges, so the number decreased by $5.1 million. So right now, the outstanding projects, the outstanding debt for approved projects is at $4.8 million. And what does that look like? I think the graph is always helpful. The first one shows you in 2017 that we're at the 12.7. In 2018, it's at 15.7. If we take out that $5 million of the unissued debt, then the highest point in 2019 will go to 18.42, and then it starts to drop as the debt matures. The cash position, the bank indebtedness at December 31st is $2.6 million. We projected on November 29th that it would be about $3 million, so we were close to that projection. This is the 8th year in a row with the bank indebtedness as a result of the cash being spent on the acquisition of tangible capital assets of about $61 million, and that was funded through long-term debt of $23 million, transfers from reserves, grants, and development charges of $33 million, and the operating funds of $5 million, which is the outstanding debt that we have to, that hasn't been issued yet. So the cash position, what does that mean? If you look at the financial statements, the balances that should have the cash on hand would be the deposits and deferred revenue, the obligatory reserves, and the reserves. So that's about $6.4 million. And the cash indebtedness is at $1.6 million. So in total, we should have about $8 million in the bank. We currently don't have that money because the money is, there's a timing issue. The money has been spent on capital, but it's earmarked to come back from the developers. So about $7.8 million will be recovered from developers, and then the issuance of long-term debt of $4.8 million. So for a total of $12.5 million will come back to the town. So even though right now the cash is not there, the cash will be coming back once the development continues to happen in East Fawn Hill. So it's just a timing issue of the growth of the town is in. So I'm just going to, so there's no requirement under the Municipal Act or town policy for the town to maintain cash or liquid assets equal to the balance of deposits in the non-obligatory deferred revenue reserves. As long as the town is charging interest, is providing interest against these reserves, then we're allowed to use that, and interest is being allocated by the town for these reserves. The risk analysis, what is the risk to the town for having invested its cash into the tangible capital assets? And we've determined that there is a value in upfronting the cost for East Fawn Hill development for future development and growth, which is currently being realized in new subdivisions, commercial and residential growth, and that's where the future property tax revenue will come from. Right now, the costs invested will be recovered by, and we broke it down, to the parkland, there's $3.6 million, of which we received $380,000 this year of that amount. The stormwater pond, the wellspring remnant land, we've received $100,000 in last year as a deposit, and the other $1 million will be coming in this month for that wellspring remnant land once the sale is final. And the Summersides Road 1.7 million will come once the development happens there. So that's where $7.8 million will come back to the town as cash, and it will replenish the reserves and other accounts that have a cash balance. Provincial partnership. As I mentioned in November, we've connected with the municipal advisors from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and they actually came to visit us in January. We had a really good conversation. We were able to give them an update on what's happening in East Fonthill and all the exciting things happening in Pelham, and they were really excited to hear about that. We reviewed the financial ratios for 2016, and they were fine with that. We also talked about, the initiatives that the town was taking on reporting the financial information even sooner. One of the things that we did invest in was Caseware. It's a software system that enables us to produce our own financial statements and also enables us to produce the financial information return on a much quicker basis. I have to commend our Deputy Treasurer, Charlotte Tunikaitis, for the great work that she's done. I mean, for us to be a month ahead in bringing financial statements, and I know Trevor's going to talk about that, is a tremendous. It's just absolutely tremendous, because it's really important for us to bring the information to council and to the public sooner. With regards to meeting the timeline of May the 31st, that's a provincial requirement. Right now, only 2 municipalities in the region meet that timeline. The other ones don't, and we're going to be the third one. And when we mentioned that to the advisors from the ministry, they were so excited, and they also want to talk to us once this is done about best practices and how do we, talk to the other municipalities, smaller municipalities like our size, about Caseware and how they can help them to get the FIR done on an earlier basis. So we're pretty excited about that, and so far things are on track, so it's very exciting. Financial strategic direction. Once again, replenishing the cash balances, that's our focus. Complete the Meridian Community Center, we're almost there, we're in the home stretch, and it's very exciting. Complete the town's development obligation of East Fonthill, and that is just taken off as well. So with regards to my closing remarks, I just wanted to say that next week it'll be a year that I'm here as your treasurer, and I just want to say thank you to everyone, especially to the wonderful team in corporate services and to Charlotte for the great work. This has just been wonderful. I'm really proud of the accomplishments that we've been able to do as far as bringing forward the reporting on a more timely basis. And our goal for next year is to bring the town's financial numbers in April. We can't bring the consolidated numbers because we have to wait for the airport and for the hydro to be consolidated, but we'd like to bring the fourth quarter in April with final numbers, so we're going to work towards that. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. It's been great, and I just really love it here. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Quinlan. There might be questions from members of council. Congratulations on your anniversary. Members of council, do you have any questions for our treasurer at this point with her report? Okay, thank you very much. And we'll receive your report when we talk about the financial statements and the auditor's report. The clerk has informed me that she did have it. She's emailed it to members of council and the media. We also have copies here of this report. And so she's going to put that on the screen there for everybody to see. As I mentioned, the financial statements, the numbers part was correct on the website, and this was unfortunately incorrect and incomplete. But we now have the correct one, and the clerk has informed me that she'll also ensure that the complete version gets up on the website as well. Thank you, Ms. Bizzato, for assisting with that and making sure that we had that once we discovered that there was a little bit of an oversight. So, Mr. Ferguson, it's good to see you again. Feels like you were just here.
It does. Take two. Thank you very much for having me. So, as I said, I'm here to present the results of our audit for the financial statements. Teresa just did a great job in presenting the financial statements and the highlights themselves. Before I do kick off, Teresa alluded to it, but I really do want to commend management on their preparedness and readiness for the audit this year. It was, in my years as being the audit partner on your audit, this has by far been the most prepared that management has been. So it was a great job. The implementation of caseware really helped out. It helped out management. It helped us as part of your audit. So thank you.
Good, thank you.
So I'm going to skip a few pages in, and what I'll do is just speak to some of the items in terms of our audit. So the font is really small, so I'm going to blow that up a little bit. Hopefully that's a little bit better. So in terms of our audit explained, I'm going to go through this at a reasonably high level, but I will touch upon some things. So in terms of our audit scope, terms of engagement, we performed our audit exactly in accordance with the audit plan that we presented to Council. So there were no changes to that plan whatsoever. In terms of the audit risks, we did not change any of the audit risks that we identified as part of our audit planning process. I'll go through some of those in just a minute. And with respect to materiality at the bottom half of the page, obviously we're not on site every day auditing every transaction that happens at the town, so we do perform our audit with the concept of materiality in mind. So we use sample sizes and thresholds and all those kinds of great things. The top of the next page, in terms of status and outstanding matters, there are a few things that are outstanding at this point, and that is entirely because Council has not approved the financial statements yet. Once that happens, we'll be able to get the signed representation letter, the legal letters, and we can complete our subsequent events review right up to today's date, which will be the date of our independent auditor's report. In terms of uncorrected misstatements, there are none, so I have nothing to report to you, which is always a good thing. On the bottom right-hand corner of a page, there's another box called Uncorrected Disclosure Misstatements. Again, there are none. What that means is that in our opinion, your financial statements disclose everything they're required to in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. There is an accounting standard that management and auditors are required to consider as to whether or not the town will cease to exist 12 months from the balance sheet date. So whether on January 1st, 2019, whether or not the town will be around, obviously that's not a concern. So your financial statements are presented on a going concern basis. At the top of the next page, there's some boxes on fraud, risk, and independence. We spoke to each of these as part of our audit plan presentation. As your external auditors, we're required to consider the risk of fraud as part of our audit of your financial statements. There's a requirement rate in Canadian audit standards. It's not because of any specific concerns we have at the town. We're required to do that for every single audit that we perform. We did not identify anything unusual in the procedures that we performed, and I'll highlight some of those in just a minute. With respect to independence, obviously we're independent and thus able to provide you with an independent auditor's report. In terms of significant accounting practices, judgments, and estimates, there are a number of estimates that go into the preparation of the town's financial statements. Employee future benefits is a big one, allowance for doubtful accounts, deferred revenue, accruals, useful life of tangible capital assets, which derives the amortization, which shows up directly on your statement of operations, is one that's often not looked at. So in conclusion, you can see we'll be issuing an unmodified report once Council approves the statements and those outstanding matters are taken care of. The next 3 pages highlight our audit risks. And this is not a comprehensive list of all of our audit risks. It is just a summary of some of the more high-level ones. You'll see that on this page, there's a little asterisk beside revenue and deferred revenue amounts. That means that it's considered a significant risk. That's because Canadian audit standards require that we presume the risk of fraud as part of our audit of your financial statements. On the next page, there's an asterisk beside management override of controls. Same thing. Canadian audit standards require that we presume that risk. So what we've done is taken those audit risks directly out of our audit plan, the first and second columns, and we've added the third column down the right-hand side, being our audit results. And for each of those items, you can see we obtained sufficient evidence to conclude that there are no material misstatements. The one that I will speak to briefly is on the next page, internal controls at the top half of the page. This is a new risk that we added for this year entirely because of the transition in the treasurer role. So as part of our audit of the town's financial statements, we're required to test the design and implementation of internal controls. Part of that testing is around approvals and sign-offs and things like that happen at the town on a daily basis. So we actually divided that testing in 3 this year. We did the first half where the old treasurer was here, the middle piece for the very short period in which there was a vacancy in the treasurer role, and the third piece being after Teresa joined. And happy to say we didn't identify anything significant. We do have one management letter comment that I'll be speaking to in a minute. In terms of other reportable matters, I already hit the highlights on some of these items. Again, there were no changes to our audit plan. We did not experience any significant difficulties in performing the audit. Obviously, no disagreements with management, and we're not aware of any post-balance sheet events that need to be reported as subsequent events in your financial statements. Appendix 1. So over the course of 2 pages, we've listed our 17 communication requirements that are directly out of the audit standards. They were also in the audit plan that we provided to council. And on the right-hand side, what we've identified is where we've told you about all these items. A number of them refer back to our audit plan, our engagement letter, or elsewhere in this document. And the others are identified as being none or none noted, which is always a good thing coming from your auditor. Appendix 2 is a copy of our draft management representation letter. I'm not going to go through it here. Needless to say, it's something that we're required, management's required to sign to us, and there are no unusual representations in that letter. And actually, just before the meeting today, I received a signed copy of it, so we're in good shape. Appendix 3 is a copy of our independence letter. We're actually not required to provide counsel with this letter, but we believe it's a best practice, so we'll continue to do so. It's just a formal letter stating that we're independent and thus able to provide you with an independent auditor's report. I'll touch briefly on Appendix 4. We have one management letter comment that we identified through the course of our audit. Relating to time entry. As part of our payroll testing, we identified that one employee was overpaid because the number of hours in their timesheet was entered incorrectly into the timesheet. Unfortunately, the secondary reviews didn't pick that up. So the employee was actually the one who picked up the matter and brought it back to the town, so that's always a good thing as well. So you can see our recommendation is twofold. One, around the system itself to try to limit the maximum number of hours that can be entered into the system for a daily basis. And second of all, just in terms of management reviews. And you can see management's provided a very appropriate response. There are some systems limitations, but they're working on those with respect to the time entry, and they've implemented some new review processes in terms of reviewing the number of hours. And the directors for each of the specific departments will be reviewing that before each pay period as well. The last thing that I'll highlight to council is really exciting. It's around new and revised auditor reporting standards. So this does not impact this year's audit, it impacts next year's audit. So the independent auditor's report that goes on the front of your financial statements from us, that's changing. So right now you have a standard 6-paragraph report. The wording is prescribed by CPA Canada, and the last paragraph is our audit opinion. In the new format, which you're going to see next year, again, it's prescribed by CPA Canada. The first paragraph is the opinion paragraph. The report itself is going to go into a little bit more detail around management responsibilities on financial statements and around auditor responsibilities around independence and ethics. Again, the wording will be very prescribed, nothing unusual, but you'll see something new next year. I know sometimes readers of financial statements count the paragraphs of audit reports, and if you see something more than you're used to, you know something's up. So next year we can go through that. So I went through that in a little bit more detail than usual, but I thought it appropriate. So I'm happy to take any questions that the council has or go through anything in more detail.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Ferguson, for your presentation and running through that. I'm pleased that we had the complete copy. I wonder if members of council have any questions for Mr. Ferguson. Councilor Ribiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the report. Just want to talk about the management letter for just a second. We have one this year. We haven't had them in the past. And I think what the management letter has done is indicated that there was in the audit the determination of something that had occurred. An attempt had been made to suggest that in the past, because we weren't getting management letters, there must be something wrong with the audit. Can you just expound upon that? It doesn't sound like there ought to be, but just for those who don't understand, why did we get one this year? Why didn't we never get one ever in the past?
Mr. Ferguson?
I can't comment on ever. I can only comment on the time I've been around. But so as part of as an auditor, doing an audit of financial statements requires that we test the design and implementation of internal controls. So first, we test the design of the process that was in place. So if you think specifically about the payroll instance that was noted, there were 2 levels of review on top of the timesheet entry that were there. So the design was already pretty strong. Unfortunately, there was one instance this year where that there was a control breakdown, if you will. So we brought that forward to management, and management fully well agrees that yes, there was a control breakdown. So as you can see, they have they've implemented a modified system that will hopefully catch things like that going forward. So with respect to your question on whether there was a flaw in the audit in the past, I would respectfully disagree. Just because an auditor doesn't identify a management letter comment doesn't mean that there was a flaw in the process. As I say, auditors are required to test the design and implementation of internal controls, and if the design of those controls around the financial reporting process are appropriate, then you likely would not see a management letter from your auditor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yep.
Others? Thank you very much, Mr. Ferguson, for your presentation and for your work. I know that your staff were in here quite a bit working with town staff, so please thank those specific staff for their work here as well. And I do have a motion moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Lane. Be it resolved that Council receive and approve the 2017 financial statements and the auditor's report dated April 30th, 2018, prepared by the firm of Deloitte LLP. And also, I've added this as Councillor Kersey and Councillor Lane received the treasurer's report dated the 7th of May, 2018. Any comments or questions? Councillor Papp?
Well, firstly, let me extend a very deep sense of gratitude to you and to the staff. What caught my eye is no material misrepresentations. It's key. Secondly, that we are working towards a period of growth, and there will be times when we have to spend money in order to get. The other part that I'm very, very happy about, or I should not have, I want to assure the public as well. You see a list of capital projects that say they were canceled, they're deferred. These projects come back every year, and we have the opportunity to review those projects again, subject to our ability to finance them, pay for them. So sometimes the word cancel doesn't mean it's canceled. It just means that it's been deferred for a certain period of time. And we look forward to this upcoming year and through a time period of which I think we've proven ourselves that we're good stewards of our financial standards. So again, to you, Mr. Ferguson, especially the staff, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments by members of council? I think we echo Councillor Papp's comments, so thank you very much for that, and thank you to the staff. And Mr. Ferguson, are we prepared for calling the question? We are. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation, your work. Thank you. Thanks all. Next on the agenda is a report of the regional councillor. It has been moved by Councillor Lane, second by Councillor Kersey. Be it resolved that the April 12, 2018 report submitted by Regional Councillor Beatty be received for information. Any comments or questions to Councillor Beatty's report? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next item is minutes. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, second by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved, following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated and read. Minutes of the council meeting of April 16th, 2018, and the special council meeting of April 30th, 2018. Are there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carried. Now we move to consent agenda items to be considered in block. Are there any items that members of council would like to lift for separate consideration? Councillor Papp?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, under 9.5, information correspondent items, I'd like to lift 9.5.2. It's the Ministry of Transportation letter to us with respect to the local transit project.
Okay, thank you very much. 952. Any others? Okay, thank you. I didn't have any, so it has been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King. Be it resolved that the following consent agenda items be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved as applicable. There are many. 9.1, presentation of recommendations arising from the Policy and Priorities Committee for council approval. And the motion is that they be approved as printed. Also, the minutes of the Policy and Priorities Committee meeting of April 16th, 2018, that the minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. Under 9.4, under 9.4, we have action correspondence of routine nature. The first 941 is the Niagara Centre Dorothy Rungeling Airport, and it's a position regarding the Niagara region uptake of control and governance for the airport, our airport, and also the Niagara District Airport. I won't read it at this point. I know Councillor Rybak will probably speak to it, but the recommendation is to approve that. Then we have information correspondence items, and these are to be received for information. The first is 951, the Niagara Central Dorothy Rungeling Airport Commission, their first quarter report. The second, 952, has been lifted, so the next one is the Halton Region resolution regarding CN truck rail development, that we receive it. Information is 954, information from the Township of Southgate and supporting the resolution municipality's right to approve landfill. 955, the Niagara Regional Council 2018 property tax policy rates and ratios. Ronald McDonald House Charities thank you letter is under 956, so receive for information. Under 9.7, committee minutes for information, we have a few. The Pelham Active Transportation Committee minutes of March 20th, 2018. The Mayor's Youth Advisory Council minutes of December 19th, 2017, January 23rd, February 23rd, March 27th of 2018. Also, we have the Summerfest Committee minutes of April 4th, 2018. The Pelham Library Board minutes of March 28th, 2018. The Pelham Public Art Advisory Committee minutes of February 14th and March 22nd. And finally, the Committee of Adjustment hearing minutes of March 6th and April 10th, 2018. I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Rybak for information regarding the Niagara Region uptake of control and governance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we have in front of us are two documents. One is the resolution that has been drafted that would enable the four municipalities who are stakeholders in the airport to accept a common position to take to the region and suggest that this is a basis for a start of the discussion. And the second document is in fact the substance of the position itself. So just very quickly, I need to thank the participants in the ad hoc committee. You'll recall it wasn't so very long ago, I think it was barely a month ago, that councils were asked to suggest participants to come together and represent the four communities to develop the position, and they did. Particular acknowledgement to the efforts of the Port Colborne Director of Strategic Projects, Cecil Vincent, who articulated the consensus achieved in the process into the two documents that we're looking at. You can tell by its style that it wasn't me that wrote those. I have initiated a discussion with my peer at Niagara District Airport to determine if there is a potential to develop an integrated position that both airports can bring to the negotiation. Obviously, if the region has a single position that consolidates both airports, it should simplify things. The integrated position would facilitate a quicker, more acceptable outcome. That discussion with peers will continue over the next few weeks. With acceptance of this resolution, the Niagara Central Airport Commission will have the information necessary to undertake the discussion with regional staff. I envision a process led by NCAC, assuming that's acceptable to the stakeholder municipalities, but supported by staff seconded as required to meet needs. And we have a couple of people in mind from a number of the municipalities who would be particularly useful. And it is my hope that our position, assuming again that it is accepted by us and our three peers in the airport, that these positions will be tabled with the Region Transportation Committee at the meeting on June 8th. And that will then put us on the record as being ready to start, and here's what we're asking for. So that's the process. That's where we are. If there are questions with regard to either the substance or the resolution itself, I'd be happy to answer them, but I think they're pretty much self-explanatory.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Rivak. Any questions for our council colleague? Certainly appreciate your work and other members of that committee and their work, the CAOs from the area municipalities, but also the councillors as well. So thank you very much for your ongoing diligence with the Airport Commission.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
their
Mayor.
work. Thank you. Any other items that council would like to comment on? One item that I'd just like to highlight for folks is it's one of the recommendations arising from the priorities and policy meeting that we had, and it was around parking in the downtown. I've received a few emails, no doubt councillors have received a few emails as well. Staff had put forward some recommendations on a direction, and council did have that, or committee did have that discussion last meeting, and did send that back to staff to keep working on this matter and look at tighter estimate costs associated with a pedestrian crossover. There was discussion in it about what that parking change would look like. So I think it was Councillor Lane and others talked about it, but what are we talking about here? Which spots? If we were to do that, doesn't mean we're going to. And also provide information regarding costs for painting lines along Pelham Street to narrow the dividing lane, similar to approach taken in downtown Fenwick. So it's still a work in progress for members of the community. I know folks get excited about parking in the downtown, and I see a member of the community that was at a meeting last week that was talking about parking. And so it's still something that we're working on. I wanted to inform the public about that and the business owners. Thank you. Anything else regarding consent agenda items? There being none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Councillor Papp, you lifted the item here, and
Okay. All right.
So go ahead. Correspondence from the ministry.
I'll be very brief. We received correspondence April 30th from the Minister, Catherine McGarry, the Minister of Transportation, and we're very pleased to say that we have received funding of $500,000 to expand on local intermunicipal transit systems throughout. And the reason I lift this, it's so significant considering that 10 years ago we virtually had nothing. So we've built on this. This is another boost, and I quote from her letter that this is the government's commitment to assist municipalities throughout the province to provide better transportation options in areas that are not served or underserved by public transit and intercommunity bus service. I would request that this be sent to the region, the Ministry of and to the Committee on Transportation Strategy Steering Committee, and also that it be shared with all of our local municipal partners to say that if you wish to pursue this, there is opportunity for you to pursue this, and I thank Ms. Ravensway for the effort and the staff that went into this, and I trust that this will just build upon the fact that this money, as part of the development that we're seeing throughout, will offer people options to get back and forth through whatever areas they need to get through in the town, and for that matter, outside the municipality. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Papp, and I appreciate you highlighting that. It is $500,000 over 5 years, so
Right,
$100,000 a year, and I know Ms. Van Ravensway has some designs on the use of that money to apply additional services in the community. But this is absolutely great news for our transit system and a way in which we can expand it in a way that's cost effective for residents. Ms. Van Ravensway, I'm just going to call on you. Just talk about the plan for the funds. I think this is a note saying that we have to sign the form, or it's coming up quickly, and we have to do that. But if you can just, in a few seconds, talk about what the plan is for those extra investment from the provincial government.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. As per my report in February, to apply for the funding, we are requesting additional funds for an additional bus presently our route, we have one bus, and our route takes an hour and 10 minutes, which is too long for many. We have many complaints, and this way it will be half the time, which is basically the same as any other municipality in which we're linking up with. So it's very convenient for everyone coming and going. We've also seen a large, a real increase of people coming in because of work, and this way they're able to commute quicker. We're also going to be partnering with, again, with Pelham Cares and the long-term care facilities to enhance the program for specialized transit. We're finding that we really need to work one-on-one with them, and we can do a better job, and this will allow that. As well, it's funding for a transit coordinator to help. We have a partial one now, and this will go along with it, and possibly extending services into the evening.
That's great.
So, and it's over a fight. It's a real blessing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We appreciate, Ms. Van Ravensway, your work. You've added it onto your plate and just made your plate bigger in order to get this done. Whenever I see the Minister McGarry, she always talks about Pelham. She always talks about the time when she was the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Transportation, but first launched our transit system and kicking the tires up at Lookout Ridge. And she says that our system is one of the most innovative in that we're not necessarily investing in stock vehicles, but into the service and then a provider providing it. So it's not something that a lot of other municipalities are doing. So kudos to you, Ms. Van Ravensway. And I think I will also I'll send a letter on behalf of council to thank the minister and the ministry for the real partnership that we have. I know Ms. Van Ravensway also spoke at a recent conference, and the ministry was encouraging her to do that and share our transit plan with other municipalities. So thank you very much. Kudos to you. Thank you. So I'm going to call the question on receiving the correspondence and sending it to the Niagara region and sharing with appropriate municipal partners so that it goes to the Transportation Strategy Steering Committee at the region as well. And I'll be sure to pen a thank you note to the minister on council's behalf. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Where's this? Thank you. Actually, I'll put it all here. Thank you. Next, we move to staff reports requiring action. It's moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey. Be it resolved that council receive the concept sheet. How might we update council on the application for a Niagara Investment and Culture Grant, and the recommendation contained therein be approved as applicable. That the mayor and clerk sign a letter of agreement from Niagara Region attached to this report in order to secure the funding, and that staff report to council on the success of the program by the end of 2018. Questions or comments to the report? Councillor Ribiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was puzzled by reference to the downtown communities of East Fonthill, Ridgeville, and Fenwick. Is that meant to be Fonthill, or is there some particular significance to identifying it as East Fonthill? This is in the Niagara Investment and Culture Concept paper. How might we update council on our application?
Ms. Van Ravensway.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This grant was specifically written, we originally applied for additional funding, although we only received $37,500. In doing that, we had to cut back on certain things, and in working with the region, due to our weekly events and many events in downtown Fonthill, they encouraged that we would have our outdoor performances, which we were going to already in Fenwick, Ridgeville, skip Fonthill, and go to East Fonthill. Basically, they just would rather not have it in downtown Fonthill, but for the two other villages, and lastly the new development in East Fonthill.
Thank you. So I guess the question is then, so materially, what does that mean? I mean, on the ground, what does that mean for the coming year?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, basically all that we're doing is we're having open mics, we're setting it up, we're facilitating for local performances downtown on the street, on a Friday night, someone could be playing,
Okay.
you know, it's low-key. It's basically to bring culture and performances periodically throughout the community.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Are you ready for calling the question? Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We look forward to those events. The next is, has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey. Be it resolved, the council receive the Seniors Active Living Centers Program Expansion 2018-19 concept sheet, and the staff be authorized to implement the Seniors Active Living Center Program, and further that staff be authorized to apply to the Ministry of Seniors Affairs for equipment under special grant funding for programming. It's more great news. Who wants to start this off? Councillor Papp, Councillor Kersey, Councillor Papp?
Sure, I think we're just thrilled. The Pelham Seniors Advisory Committee was just absolutely ecstatic. This will allow us to provide programming, particularly now that the community center is starting to open up. It would also allow us to work on other possible educational programs throughout the area. And then the other, I think the 15,000 would be for capital acquisitions. So it just builds on what we've been doing as far as aging in place, all our work that we're doing with our seniors population. I couldn't be more pleased. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo my friend's sentiments. I think this is fantastic, and it points out to the community again that we're not building a twid-pad arena. We are building a community center that has programs and offerings for all sectors of our community. And obviously, the ministry looked at that and agreed with that position, and I look forward to us having a programmer specifically designated for seniors to develop and expand the programs that we already offer. And I believe, and perhaps our director could clarify this, I believe this opens up funding for ongoing funding in subsequent years. And I'd
Right.
be interested to hear that perhaps, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
from
thank
the
you.
director.
Madam Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's what's so wonderful about this designation. This is a operating grant, so we will get monthly funds, basically for operating senior active programs, and it's continual. It's continual year after year. We do submit annual reports, but the funding does not end unless we
Stop the
really stop. Yeah, but it's, and as you said, it opens up other possibilities. We actually have, and that's what we're asking for, approval to apply for a additional 15,000 for equipment to run the programs.
Perfect.
So it's wonderful.
That's great. And something that's been talked about, just to build on that, it's not often that one gets operational funding from the province for something, and so we appreciate their involvement and commitment. But also it means that our community, that we will be having programs specific. We always were going to plan them, but now we have a specific funds to assist with that, and also the potential for a coordinator. So I'm sorry, Councillor Durley, go ahead. I jumped ahead of other councillors. I apologize.
Thank you,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor. Just to build on that, the number of interested parties that are talking to our people for scheduling things is amazing as well. That just goes to show the true interest that our total community has, and certainly this will go a long way to satisfy the needs and wants of a lot of groups that really want to participate in that new center. And it just goes to show the success rate that we anticipate that it will be used, and it will be used effectively and efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a great opportunity to get these funds into the community itself, because not only do we know that we have a rapidly growing seniors community, but we also have programs that are being offered within town that are maxed out for capacity, and we have a lot of seniors that are traveling outside of Pelham to access the programs that now we'll be able to offer here in our own community center, in addition to drawing people into the community center from outlying areas that may not otherwise have been able to participate. So I'm very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? So great news all around. Thanks for those that were responsible for putting the grant in, and certainly we appreciate, I know I spoke to both Jim Bradley and Sam Osterhoff, MPPs, about this grant and the need for our community as expressed by members of the community for this seniors grant. So we thank them as well. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. And we look forward to these programs coming to fruition in our new Meridian Community Center. Thank you. Now we move to a couple of items of unfinished business. Ombudsman investigation report and also a letter from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. So we'll deal with the first one first. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Lane. Be it resolved, the Council received the correspondence from Paul Dubé, Ombudsman of Ontario, report Office of the Ontario Ombudsman regarding an investigation into whether the town of Pelham held an improper closed meeting and an illegal informal gathering on September 5th, 2017, and that staff be requested to forward a copy of the Ombudsman's report to the Council of the Region of Niagara, local area municipal councils, Minister of Municipal Affairs, all Niagara MPPs, and to Infrastructure Ontario, and that a copy be posted on the town's website. Kersey Lane moved it. Who wants to start? Do you want to start, Councillor Kersey?
Sure,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor, thank you. Well, Mr. Mayor, it's certainly satisfying to receive this report after a very exhaustive study on behalf of the Ombudsman. She, and their workers interviewed the parties involved and came to the conclusion that we did conduct a proper in-camera meeting. There are certain conditions in the Municipal Act that allow us to go in camera, and that we did satisfactorily both declare our intent to move in camera and that our management of the in-camera session was within the guidelines of the Act. So it's very satisfying to receive this final report. As a councillor, you always try to do your best and to live within the meaning of the law and within the guidelines of the Act. And it is certainly heartening to hear from the upper levels who are expert in the field that we have fulfilled our municipal responsibilities under the Municipal Act. It's unfortunate that some members of the community felt that we were off base in the way we conducted our affairs that led to the Ombudsman having to look into it. It certainly gave a few of us, me included, some sleepless nights because we do take our jobs seriously and want to do the best for our community. And I'm very satisfied with the report, Mr. Mayor, and very I hope the municipality will read this report in depth, understand it, and understand that this council tries its very best to conduct its business in line with the Municipal Act. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any others? Councillor Ribbiak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to echo a lot of what Councillor Kersey has said, but I've got a couple of thoughts in addition. I'm grateful to the Ombudsman for his objective and rational review. He was informed by facts and data. He obviously, as we are all aware, he spoke with each one of us and got an independent version of what happened. But I think that one of the really interesting observations he made was the extent to which the recording, the audio recording of our in-camera meetings was helpful. It wasn't a case of his having to piece together an idea of what happened in that in-camera meeting from the things that we said. He could actually hear it himself and verify anything that was said by any of us. So that I think is an important thing, and I just want to acknowledge that that's our clerk who brings these ideas to us and really emphasizes the need to stay within the four corners of the law when we do the work that we do. But I would also like to just comment on the fact that we are, I believe, we are an effective council, and the reason that we're an effective council in part is that we spend quite a bit of time with one another I don't mean socially, I'll get to that in a second, but we spend time in these meetings, sometimes at great length. We spend time together in creative thinking processes, often at great length. We educate ourselves together at great length. We do strategic planning together. And yes, we go out for a drink from time to time. And we do that understanding that all of that contributes to the effectiveness of this. This is a council whose relationships are based on mutual respect. We give ourselves room to articulate the things that we need to articulate. We argue with one another, and then we put all that aside, and we are a congenial, collegial group. And I think that's something that was recognized within the Ombudsman's report as well. There's a caution in there that we have always observed to be sure that we don't progress the business of the town in social gatherings. We don't do that. We commiserate with one another sometimes about the way things go, but it's never outside the bounds of what's acceptable. So I want to just just express the gratitude that I have to the Ombudsman for looking at and understanding the realities of what councils are all about, and understanding that our council functions, as Councillor Kersey says, within the law, but also very effectively because of the relationships that we have developed with one another. So I was very pleased with that report. I hope it's read in all the right places and people can put whatever thoughts they might have had behind them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Thank you. It is, just quickly, it is very gratifying to receive this report from the Ombudsman, and we appreciate his and his office's comprehensive review of what happened that day, and again, echoing the comments of people who should read the report and understand what occurred at that particular meeting and why. And I think it's it's gratifying, but it's also good to get this behind us as well. Among the next item of correspondence as well. These have been our community has been put up and down and through the ringer for a number of issues, and so it's heartening to get a resolution for some of these, for the remaining ones. Councillor Papp.
Very quickly, to add to that, this document also becomes an educational piece for anyone who's interested in becoming part of local government. Because anyone who is interested should read and find out. I've been around long enough, Mr. Councillor Durley and I. This has been an ongoing rebuilding of what confidence and trust is the public has. So this sets into place. So whether you're on council or whether you're thinking about it, this is a document that should be very carefully looked at so that you understand your scope of responsibilities and accountabilities. And I'm very happy that it was set out in this particular manner. And if there was things done wrong, then it's up to us. We have to self-regulate and make sure that we do it within the context of the law. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any others? I'm going to call a question then on this report. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. The second item of unfinished business has been moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Kersey. Be it resolved, the Council received the correspondence from the Minister of Municipal Affairs dated April 23rd, 2018, regarding a local request for a provincial municipal audit, and the staff be requested to forward a copy of the correspondence to the Council of the Region of Niagara, local area municipal councils, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and all Niagara MPPs. The Minister already sent it to us, but he was, perhaps we should send it to the Ombudsman, because they were all circulated on these items. Lane, Kersey, do either want to start?
I mean, it speaks for itself. I really have nothing to add to it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to say a few words. Again, I'm very pleased that the minister acknowledges the importance in ceding to the local municipality responsibility for its own financial affairs. I'm also encouraged by the fact that the minister clearly understands that there's been an ongoing dispute between Pelham and Niagara Region, a dispute that bears little resemblance or little linkage to the year and a half turmoil that our community has been put through. Mr. Mayor, I'm truly sorry for our community. I honestly feel that our community has been unnecessarily put through a tremendous amount of concern and anguish over issues that were embraced by certain members of the regional council. They were embraced not because they cared about the town of Pelham's financial affairs, but more because they cared about their political aspirations and the political concerns that our community raised with respect to the MPCA, with respect to our right and our wishes to appoint our own representative to the MPCA, one who would be qualified. And I'm not making a disparaging remark regarding Councillor Beatty's ability to serve on that. Our wish was that we would go through the same process that we go through for any of our advisory committees, where people apply, they're vetted, and we appoint the person we think's most responsible and able to serve in the role that we requested. I think it's time, Mr. Mayor, that the region looks inward at their own financial responsibilities. We were openly criticized by a number of members there, members of the audit committee, who questioned not just our knowledge about finance, they questioned two of the most significant auditing firms in Canada and questioned the results of their findings. I think it's time they look internally and look at things like, how did the Burgoyne Bridge go $50 million over budget? How is the NPCA being operated? What about the lawsuits that have recently been settled for $2.5 million? What about the cost overruns on capital projects such as the water processing plant in Chippewa? I think it's time they consider their own sphere of jurisdiction and stay out of the local municipalities' spheres. Because when they get involved in things they don't understand or are not fully aware of the business cases that the local municipal councils have considered at great depth, they're going down a path that leads to confusion, both at the region, but within the local municipality. And I can't tell you the number of citizens that have come up to me and said, what the heck is going on here? And once it's explained and they read the document, they understand. So, Mr. Mayor, my hope is that as we approach an upcoming election, that there will be change at the region and that the region's raison d'etre will change, and it will be to manage things regional and not things municipal, as in our little town. They talk about One Niagara in many of their documents and putting together a new strategic plan. I think a very important part to be included in that strategic plan is, how do we become One Niagara? How do we stop alienating the lower tier municipalities that make up this region and are so important to the health of this region, both financially and culturally? So, Mr. Mayor, I hope that these things are a turning point, these reports that we received tonight, that our community can go forward in a positive vein. I look forward to the opening of the community center. I look forward to the fulfillment of our business case that we developed involving investing in the East Fawn Hill lands to attract developers, such that those monies will flow back to the community, not just to cover off the debt that we incurred to undertake that, but for many years to come, to create wealth within this community and financial stability within this community. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity to comment on this. I know I got a little off field, but my hope is that this community can now move forward and heal, and let's celebrate our successes as we have tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know how to follow that act, but a lot that was said that perhaps I was going to say, but just looking at the letter from the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Bill Morrow, he encourages both the town of Pelham and the Niagara Regional Council to work together to address issues locally, and I think we can put the city of St. Catharines and the city of Welland, every other municipality in that spot where the town of Welland, or where the town of Pelham is. Niagara Regional Council, I think, really was not in the same water as any municipality with that. And in some of the statements that we made earlier through all the trying times that we had, warning other municipalities it could happen to you as well. And it is happening. Walter Zenzik, the St. Catharines mayor, said, looks like St. Catharines is the new Pelham. And it's the region thing. So, I think we have to change our mindset and work together. You want something to happen in Niagara, you need to have all of Niagara involved, and I think he says it all in that second paragraph of his letter. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Durley. Others? I, too, want to comment briefly on this letter. We certainly appreciate the letter from the minister, and I see this as really closing a chapter on a story along with the other report, that really was never there. It's sad that so much energy, so much time went into proving something that was never there to begin with. This letter, the letter from the Ombudsman, the information from Infrastructure Ontario, the information from KPMG, all reconfirmed what we had been saying for months, and has shown that all of these things are I guess there's just so much energy put into it. It's sad that the community was taken down really an emotional roller coaster for this, and I think the community will recognize this as being that end to that chapter. The public didn't deserve this, to go through this. And so I'm very pleased that we're receiving this now, and that we have been cleared yet again from the ministry in this case. Thanks, Councillor Durley, for highlighting that as well. I wanted to talk about that the minister encourages both the town and the region to work together to address issues locally. That's so important, and that's what people expect in the community. They don't expect us to be fighting back and forth. They expect us to work together. And I know that this council is committed to that for the benefit of the community, and I think all communities across Niagara should be committed to that for the benefit of all of us in the Niagara Peninsula. The next chapter has started. We had some of it at the start of the meeting, and we've been having that chapter, a positive chapter, written for us. As Councillor Kersey, you alluded to, the plans are coming to fruition. And so I look forward to working together with Council on that chapter and writing a beautiful story for our community for generations to come with this new Pelham Community Center, now called the Meridian Community Center. Thank you. So I'm going to now call the question on the motion, and it says here to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Perhaps we often circulate it to the Ombudsman, so we should circulate instead, if that's okay by the mover and the seconder, to the Ontario Ombudsman. Okay. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Again, we thank the minister for the correspondence. Now we move to bylaws. So it has been moved by Councillor Ribyak, seconded by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved, the Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration to the following bylaws, do now read a first, a second, and third time and do pass the same, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the following bylaw. Bylaw 3990, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with Hurt Inc. and the Corporation of the Town of Pelham, Saffron Meadows Phase 1, subdivision file number 26T19-02014, and bylaw 3994, 2018 being a bylaw to set the rates of taxation for the year 2018. Comments or questions on either of those? Very pleased that Saffron is here. I know we kind of did it in parts, and folks that are here in the audience or watching at home, Saffron is the area that's across from Rice Road Greenhouse at the corner of Port Robinson Road and Rice Road. In that area, they're doing some work on the front part. Once this gets approved, they can do work on the back part as well. And just simply in terms of the rates of taxation for the year 2018, I did write about this, and we did talk about it with the budget a couple of weeks ago. But this means that over the last 12 years that the rate of taxation for the blended amount for the average home in the town of Pelham is actually under inflation. The increases for that entire 12-year period. So that's great news for our community, and it's indicative of the innovation that we do here and the additional services that have been provided, and yet also the capital projects that are being undertaken. So I'm going to call the question on the bylaws. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. It's been moved by Councillor King, second by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved, the following bylaw be read a first, second, third time and passed, being bylaw 3995, 2018, to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of council of the town of Pelham at its regular meeting held on the 7th day of May, 2018. That bylaw number is correct, is it?
Yes, because it was brought forward from a previous meeting.
All right, thank you. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved, this regular meeting of council be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for Tuesday, May 22nd, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. It's on a Tuesday because of the holiday. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.